There once reigned a mighty African empire called Klaf. Klaf was ruled by a very powerful king called Odin. King Odin was known as a fierce warrior and an ambitious ruler. His conquest of Udo had been his greatest triumph, but his greatest weakness was the woman he brought back from the ruins of that war, a woman whose beauty defied all logic and whose presence would one day lead to his downfall. Her name was Nkem. She was the daughter of a high priest in Udo, woman of noble birth, now reduced to nothing but a concubine in a foreign land. Though King Odin could not marry her, he could not let her go either. He built a lavish residence for her just outside the royal palace, where she lived in isolation, seen by few but known by all. A year after her capture, she bore him a son. The boy was named Obilu, a name that meant born in sorrow in her native tongue. From an early age, Obilu was different from the children of Klaf. He had the sharp mind of his father, but the fire of his mother's blood. The king was fond of him, but never acknowledged him as a true heir. The boy was never allowed to train with the warriors, never given the privileges of nobility. Instead, he was kept at the edge of royalty, close enough to see its power, but far enough to know he would never have it. As Obilu grew, his mother filled his ears with the truth of their past. She told him how the mighty King Odin had slaughtered her people, how she had been taken against her will, how she had once been a daughter of a free land but was now a prisoner in golden chains. The stories planted a seed of hatred in his heart, a hatred that only deepened with time. One fateful night, when Obilu was 17, his mother took him to a hidden chamber beneath her residence. There, she revealed something the king never knew. She had kept a relic of Udo's priesthood, a sacred dagger believed to hold the spirits of her ancestors. She placed it in his hands and whispered, "The blood of Klaf runs through you, but it does not own you. Remember who you are, my son. Remember what they took from us." From that night on, Obilu began his silent rebellion. He reached out in secret to the scattered remnants of Udo's warriors, those who had survived the conquest and lived in hiding. He promised them vengeance, and they pledged their loyalty. But he knew he could not destroy Klaf with warriors alone. He needed the king's enemies to strike from within. Obilu forged an alliance with Klaf's greatest rival, the kingdom of Xiren. He offered them something they had long sought but never could attain, a way into Klaf's impenetrable walls. The people of Klaf saw him as an outcast, a forgotten son, and never suspected he held the keys to their doom. When the time was right, Obilu led the enemy through the hidden passages beneath the city, places only he and his mother knew. The gates of Klaf were thrown open, and the enemy poured in like a storm. Fire consumed the grand palace, warriors fell in the streets, and the mighty King Odin, the great conqueror, was forced to face the son he had never truly accepted. In the burning ruins of his throne room, Odin stood before Obilu, his sword heavy in his grip. He looked into the eyes of the boy he had raised, the boy he had never called his heir, and saw only hatred staring back at him. "You would betray your own blood?" the king asked, his voice heavy with disbelief. "You betrayed me first," Obilu answered, his mother's dagger gleaming in his hand. And with that he struck. By dawn, the kingdom of Klaf was no more. The once great empire lay in ashes, its king slain by his own son. Obilu stood atop the ruins, watching as the survivors of Udo reclaimed what was left. But even in victory, he felt no peace. The blood of Klaf ran through him, and no matter how much he tried to erase it, it would always be a part of him.